Hello everyone and welcome to part 5 of the CM Kozeman Spontaneous Travel Special Extravaganza. I don't know how long this series is gonna go, but in it I'm gonna be sharing my personal tips and experiences about how you can have these spontaneous, unplanned trips that would add richness and variety to your life. This has been a long series. I talked about basically what it means to take such trips, beginning with one's need for their own time in an unplanned setting. We have strictly regulated and regimented lives in context of time these days, and that's a great cause for stress for everyone concerned. So I talked about what to pack for such trips, how to think in such trips, how to basically explore new places without making plans. That's the gist of this whole deal, and I hope you're enjoying it. It's kind of different from rest of this channel's content, but I don't care because this channel is not monetized. I'm just doing it to scratch my own itches. But if you like this attitude and if you like this content, please consider supporting me on patreon.com. The links are below, and every dollar you donate goes towards me taking such trips, such time of my own to make such podcasts, and so on and so forth. And also, if you support me on Patreon, you get to see new artworks, new works in progress that nobody has ever seen before. I'm really updating it like every day almost. It's really become like from a side hustle to a main hustle almost. So if you support me there, the things you will see, oh my god, they will be amazing. So without that, let's get it out of the way and let's talk about how you can explore new cities in a sort of open-ended approach. This episode, the 5th of this series so far, is about urban expeditions and urban adventures. Basically, how you can explore a new city from start to finish and what kind of mentality you would need to take. Of course, these are all tainted by my personal perspective, but then again, I'm just an army of one. So this is my subjective approach. If you have any other ideas, please share them in the comments. Okay, so it's always a great adventure to you get on a train, you go to another city. Maybe if you're lucky, if you got more money to spare, you actually go on a plane and you go to a new city. But the experience is always the same. You feel really fresh. You feel like there's nowhere you need to be, or like nobody has power over your handling of your time, and that's always a blissful feeling. And it's always very relaxing. So let's go and talk about how you can explore cities this way. Okay, so imagine I get off the plane or the train. More often it's the train or the bus for me these days. Or maybe I drive over to a new town. I don't know what to call this place. Call it Memopolis, okay? Let's be really objective here. First thing first, you search for accommodation. And there are a couple of ways to go about this. If you have friends online, maybe you can ask ahead of time and if you could crash in their place, and that's always an option. The thing with staying at other people's houses is that even though they're the most hospitable and nice people in the planet, sometimes personal space can be an issue. So I got 2 tips. If you stay at your friends' houses in another city, especially if you never met these people before, always bring them a little gift, or arrange to do that week's grocery shopping for them. You know, you would still pay much less than what you would pay for a hotel or a hostel. And then it's just common courtesy. Even if they refuse it, just, go out of your way. Maybe, you gotta be kind of perceptive and intuitive about these things. If they're having a big dinner, maybe go to the grocery shop yourself and get the kind of stuff you think they would need. That's, I think, one rule. Or maybe treat everybody to a lunch or dinner outside when you're all out. You gotta be giving in these adventures. Or my favorite is like if you go to a new city, just pack light, walk around, and maybe find a hotel of your own. This is always a great experience. The hotel doesn't need to be very expensive. It doesn't need to be a fancy hotel or a resort or anything. It could be a 3-star hotel, 2-star hotel, I don't care. As long as it has a decent bed and a place you can shower in, then you're good to go. So that's always like the best option for me. A kind of middle priced or maybe even a cheap hotel. Just crash there. If you have stuff, you just leave it there and then you go out, start exploring the city. Now, I always make an expedition bag. So I'm settled into my hotel or my friends' places more often. Let's assume I'm living at a cheap hotel now. I make a little like go out bag. And in this bag, I always have my painting and art supplies, a book to read because I just might feel like it. And I also, as an artist, I also always have a set of gift prints. Basically, I have these dozens of prints and they're ready to give away to people at a moment's notice because you never know who you're going to meet on these adventures. Like a good trick is like if you go to a museum, an art museum or something, especially at least in the United States, they accept donations instead of a ticket fee. So there have been times where instead of paying $40 for a ticket, I just donated a print and maybe gave $1 and got to tour the museum for literally $1. So that's always a good option. Never forget that. And then I also have a book to read, and I don't know, like I have some basic snacks. That's it. I have my passport, my reserve of emergency cash. I always carry that with me. I never needed it. It should be a decent amount to get you out of trouble, but not a big enough amount so that if your bag is stolen, it will hurt. And I never carry electronics or my computer. I never carry a smartphone because those things just ruin the experience. Like, you go to a new city, like, I'm saying like Prague, okay? Well, you go to a fucking iPhone and say, Prague, best restaurants. Huh? Where's the joy in that? You never get to explore or find out things on your own. Now, it's always, in my book, pretty legitimate to ask people. And a great option I have, a great experience I have, like if you go to bookshops, people in bookshops, people who work there, people who are older than 30 in this day and age, let us say. So you go to a bookshop and ask the first non-Gen Z worker about a decent and a cheap place to eat. And it's a little known secret of life that people who work in bookshops always go for places that serve good food at an affordable price. So that's also a great takeaway. Okay, so in these expeditions, I told you I don't take a computer along, but sometimes I cheat a little. I take a computer along and I leave it at the hotel room. So the hotel room is my like preparation phase. So there are always a couple of types of destinations I like to hit when I'm exploring a new city. Number one are museums. If you live in the Mediterranean world, you're very lucky. You get to see, even in the smallest town, there are lots of great archaeological museums you could study. And like in some of these places, you can actually see like these amazing artifacts and relics in like relatively small towns and cities. So it's always a boon to see that if you are in the Mediterranean world. So I always see archaeological museums. I don't really like these museums of contemporary art. Or like in Istanbul, I have to get this out of my chest. In Istanbul, there's this one notorious writer. His name is Orhan Pamuk. He's a great writer. His book about his life and youth in Istanbul is a classic, and I really think it deserved the Nobel Prize. His other books, in my opinion, are just complete crap. I'm sorry, Mr. Pamuk, but that's just the gospel truth. They're just these like weirdly imagined, pamby-namby fiction, and like as if it's supposed to be historic, but it's not historic, but it's also kind of postmodern. And it's all these like really meticulously imagined characters, but it really doesn't go anywhere. And if you're writing, I dislike the realistic fiction genre in general, so it's not particularly against this Orhan Pamuk character. But if you're gonna read fiction, just go whole hog. Just go balls deep. Go read science fiction, speculative evolution. Read the decent stuff. Otherwise, just read memoirs and history books. Those are great. Anyways, I got sidetracked, but this Orhan Pamuk character has a book. It's about this obsessive character who obsesses about this woman really hard, and like it's really obsessive and whatever. And this book is called The Museum of Innocence. And lo and behold, in the heart of downtown Istanbul, there was a Museum of Innocence based on a kind of fan fiction of this book. So you get to see like stupid exhibits, like this guy is apparently so obsessive that he collects all the cigarette butts this lady he's chasing smokes. So there's this one wall crowded with thousands of little cigarette butts and shit, and it's supposed to be like contemporary art, but it's just crap. So I avoid that thing, especially in a place like Istanbul, which has a enormous depth of real life history. Why would you waste your time on such a shitty museum? It's just beyond me. So don't go to museums like that. I also don't like contemporary art museums in general. I'm not saying avoid them, but like they should play second fiddle to archaeology museums, classical state-run museums of art. Those are always great. They have great paintings. Also, they have great like works of postmodern art too. I actually like postmodern art. If you're in the developed Western world, you can also, that's a neat trick. If you're in a place like London or Seattle or San Francisco, even though these are not my favorite cities, you especially should look up these privately owned galleries. They sell anything ranging from mid-century modern art to Victorian era prints and illustrations. And even though these are private galleries, you can actually go tour them without buying anything. So you always learn a lot from these trips. Like the last time I was in London, I toured all these galleries at the behest of my wife, I must add. Like she's like a real driving influence in these matters. I toured all these galleries hosting all these Andy Warhol prints and stuff, and they're like really spectacular. There are also like lots of like niche galleries specializing in mid-century art or prints or like those are great. So private galleries, tour them too. State-run museums, tour them. Of course, this is the CM Kozman channel. If there's anything like a natural history museum, you have to go there and see it. And to this, I might also add botanical gardens. I remember when I was exploring Prague, they had this like great botanical garden in the middle of the city. And a few people ever visit that. It's like a really quiet and nice place. If the place you're touring has like some weather problems, libraries are always great to explore, especially in European cities, like in Italy stuff. Go and spend a whole day at a local library, just picking books at random off the shelf, looking at them, reading them, and also just drawing, reading. That's a perfect life. So what else should be on your itinerary? Archaeological museums, state-run art museums, those are great. Also just look up, like list name of your city and museums, and if you find anything you like, go there and see it. And like construct a day around at most 2 museum visits per day. So that's how you build your days. After you're done touring the museums, another great place to hit up are second-hand bookshops. Also, like if it's a big world city, there are also like some great bookshops, especially like, once again, if you're talking about London, there's a place called Foyles, and goddamn, it's an expensive bookshop, but man, I mean, the books you find there off. So second-hand bookshops are also even better because, especially in like small, like I once found this enormous and like otherwise very expensive book in a forgotten Turkish coastline town at a second-hand bookshop. I don't know how it ended up there, but it like sold for like $50 a copy. But this guy let me have it for like literally 30 cents in American money these days. So that was a big win for me. I like reading these books cover to cover. I don't buy books because I like the way they look or something. If I see a book that I would like to read, I just purchase it, and it's like my loot from that expedition to that city. So that's another thing with urban stuff. Always have 3 meals a day. Ideally, your first meal should be at the hotel or motel you're staying. That's also one reason I don't recommend sleeping at somebody's house unless you're fucking them. Like, if you hooked up with someone and you're dating, okay, that's the best thing in the world. Like, crash with them, by all means. But if you're staying with a friend, even if this is an online friend, and even if these are very generous people, something happens when people wake up. Like, everyone puts up their best face for a social life, but people might have other problems. They just might not be morning people, and the breakfast is always grueling. Like, when I was staying with my best friend John Conway in my visits to London, we always got around this issue by going to a nearby breakfast place, so not having anything at home, just getting out of the house first thing in the morning, just eating the most protein-rich breakfast ever, which brings us to my other deal. If you're having a city expedition, and basically if you're exploring another city, you gotta chunk the fuck up. You gotta eat, stuff that body full of proteins and carbohydrates. And if you're like dieting, it can wait. Really, you must, like, because you're gonna be walking around all day, thinking all day, making decisions all day, and it's just gonna do things to your mind. You're gonna lose a lot of glucose, lose a lot of carbohydrates really, really fast. So eat up. I say 3 meals a day, big breakfast. Usually for me, it's like a breakfast is like a plate of bacon or salami rolls or sausage, and then at least 2 eggs, a bowl of fruit, a glass of tall banana or strawberry milkshake, and then some crackers, some cakes. That's my breakfast. And to this day, I weigh 60 kilos. I don't know how much that is in pounds, but God just doesn't want me to put up weight, I guess. I don't know. But if I'm exploring a town, this is how I eat ravenously. And also when it's like 12 o'clock, go ask those bookshop people, or like find people who you think are like honest, and then ask them where is a good place to eat. I never look at restaurants. I think just in that respect, I also feel like Alexander the Great. Food is a curse. I wish I never had to eat, but I have to. So when I have to, I take care of that in the most brisk, practical, and fulfilling fashion possible. When it's noon time, I'm very punctual. If it's like noon, I just go to you could go to a Burger King or McDonald's too. I think those are like some great options. Like good old Mickey D's, like they know how to sustain people. Or go to this local eatery, and unless I'm adventurous, I don't experiment with local dishes much. Because I like eating, but I don't like food. Do you know what I mean? So I go to this like mom and pop home cooked meal place and maybe get some like a plate of rice and some chopped up liver or some chopped up mutton, and then top it all off with a big tall glass of orange juice. Hero's lunch. Or if you're in a really unfamiliar part of the world, go to Mickey D's. Hit up Burger King, Kentucky Fried Chicken, or any of the local burger places. Actually, don't go to these local third wave fancy artisanal burger places, because they fuck you over in those places. They just charge you extra. Go for cheap food. Also, it's like an amazing life hack. If you want to get some coffee, get it at Burger King or McDonald's. These places make really good coffee or hot chocolate for amazingly cheap prices. For some reason, people avoid them. I think it's like a stupid class thing, to be honest. Everybody's talking about class conflict these days and how it's not going to be like proletariat raising hammers against the bourgeoisie. The class conflict is already taking place before our very eyes. It takes place in a new form. Not many people realize, but it's basically the same form. Oh, McDonald's coffee, that's bad. I'd rather have my coffee at Costa Coffee or Madame Bumfuck's artisanal coffee. That's class conflict. I don't like Walmart. I don't like the people there. I'd rather go to Target. That's class conflict. So don't be surprised when they elect Trump. I don't want to make this political, and just for the record, Trump was a horrible U.S. president. But if you neglect people that way, if you snub them that way, they're going to vote. They're going to respond. So that's the whole like aspect of class conflict we never get to talk much about. But I mean, especially when you're exploring a new world city and you're making these financial decisions about disposable costs such as food, be class conscious. Go have your coffee at McDonald's. No one's gonna shame you. You're a visitor. No one's gonna judge you. Heck, that's the way I live in my own city, and let me tell you, I mean, people are very judgmental. And these stupid class lines. Anyways, I don't want to talk much. I'll do a whole other podcast about my class views and my weird, like 80% left wing, 20% center right views. Anyways, I'll talk about that in another time. Let me get some cheap coffee. Also, another option. If you're famished for lunch, but if you're going to spend your whole day in a library or touring 10 different bookshops or something, it's also very, very great if you go to a supermarket, pack up on sandwiches, orange juice, loads of Mars bars. I do the like MTS system, which is Mars, Snickers, Twist. I have like 2 of each in my backpack. So as I tour during the day, Mars is the best one to like give a quick dollop of energy. Snickers really is like a sustaining meal if you're hungry. Twix, it's great if you're getting a coffee and you want something to dip in it. That's my system. So don't forget the famous MTS system either. CM Kozeman patented since 2000, God knows when, helping me tour the cities of the world. Also, these pre-packed sandwiches, they're just great. They're just great, amazing shit. Oof. I think I'm gonna have some today. The cool, like, the cold, stale, pre-packed air, somewhat warmed by the warmth of your backpack. That's just fancy. Alright, enough jokes. So, you start touring these places, museums, bookshops, second-hand bookshops. What else? Botanical gardens, zoos if they're very close. Somehow, I don't know, like, I'm not a very keen visitor of zoos because I feel bad for the animals, even though most zoos take great care of the animals. It's just something I don't like pursue. Usually also because zoos are located outside the city, so it's a hassle to get to them most of the time. And ideally, you should be able to tour the city on foot or with the public transport system. Also, your first day in this new city, wherever it is, go take some time apart and like familiarize yourself with the buses and the trains and the trams or stuff. It will really help you later on. Then what I do is I go to the historic center of these towns, wherever they are, and look at all these like student cafes. Also, weirdly, I like touring pet shops, especially if they're aquarists. That should also be a place to visit. I like looking at the fish, and it's like a visit to the zoo. So relaxing. What else did we talk about? Yes, hit up libraries. Those are great. So you have your whole day. When it's time to unwind a little, find a little student cafe. It's also great to pick cities with universities in them for this reason, because they're just the best cities to live in. Places like Eskişehir in Turkey, or some of the cities in Poland, Prague itself, they really have this nice laid-back vibe. There are always these young people around you, and like, it's really quite a difference between a student city or a student part of the city and, let's say, a business part of the city. You'll feel more alive in a student district. So you go to a student district and just look at places. Don't fucking use like the internet. Okay, I cheat a little. I bring my laptop to these trips sometimes, and then I use it to basically find out which bookshops to go and which museums to go. Okay, you can do that. You're allowed. I allow you. I permit you, slave. Anyways. And then, but for when it comes to cafes and restaurants, I never use the internet. I actually, in cases I don't have my laptop along with me, I also look at these internet cafes where just you pay them like a small amount of money to surf the web the whole day. And those are also great, especially if you're like me and you got the luxury of being able to work from out of the office, basically. Also, like, you could also crash at an internet cafe, get some like lukewarm coffee, eat your Twix, recharge, regroup, and revitalize. And then these cafes for me are great places to draw after I tour wherever I am going to tour for the day. So I divide my day into this. I have breakfast, I just walk around a bit, I hit up bookshops or libraries or museums or botanical gardens or aquarium shops or whatever, these places of curious interest. I do my shopping and shit. Then it comes to relax. I have lunch in between. And then around like 4 p.m. or something, I sit down at a cafe and I just start drawing. I do this until maybe dinner time, which is between like 8 to 10. Then I go to maybe the same place again. Or like if you're at a student cafe, you actually talk to human beings and ask them where's a cheap and good place to eat, and they'll point you. Students are always like a great resource for lifestyle tips, basically. And then I draw. I go back to the student cafe after dinner. I draw. Sometimes I socialize. But then socialization is a whole other ball game, which we will consider in an upcoming episode. How to socialize on these unplanned adventures. I hope you liked my tips for city life, city living. I hope I could give you a new insight on basically how to carry yourself and explore new cities. Heck, if you don't have a budget to travel, you could even explore your own city this way. And it's always a great and refreshing change of perspective. And we will be back with episode 6, Social Life, which will include, I think, tips on maybe even dating. I don't know. I'm not the best person to consider, but I'll just talk about what I know from my past life. Okay, everyone, that was that. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you consider donating to me on Patreon. One of my friends told me if I could sing something from New Order or something. I don't know. I like that genre of songs, but I'm closing off with this thing from Joy Division. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you all have a great day. Okay, if you know what song is this, you listen to the end, you could tolerate my shit for so long, write it on the comment section, and thank you so much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.